Welcome in to another episode of my Dynasty Fantasy Football YouTube. Today I have my 5 takeaway series covering my top 5 takeaways from the NFL draft. As always, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Let's go. Oh, I think I'm still tired from those 10 hours of live streaming. But my first takeaway is that Travis Hunter is a tricky Dynasty rookie evaluation. So he was drafted second overall by the Jaguars after a huge draft day trade. The Jaguars gave up their 26th first, a second, and swapped later picks. So they went all in on adding Hunter to the team. Now, we don't know exactly how Hunter will be used. Head coach Liam Cohen said Hunter will focus on offense first, but mix in on defense. I don't know what that will mean. I do think Hunter is clearly the starting wide receiver, a starting wide receiver for the Jaguars. At least their wide receiver too. If he can eventually be their wide receiver 1B and also their cornerback 1 or cornerback 2, this will be an incredible value, what they got here. And Hunter is a great wide receiver prospect. Now, what am I doing? For me, Hunter's value is fine, but I'd be buying Brian Thomas Jr. More of a takeaway than anything with Hunter. At the end of the day, Hunter is an excellent wide receiver prospect with great draft capital. Now, would the Jaguars have traded up to number 2 if Hunter were only a wide receiver? No, they would not have. He's not worth it if he only played wide receiver. So to say he's a wide receiver with second overall draft capital is misleading. But don't hear what I'm not saying. He was my wide receiver 1 in this class. He would have been a top 10 pick as a wide receiver only. Would he have gone this high and traded up for firsts? No. But I will say one thing. To say that Travis Hunter, who is a really good prospect, but not Malik Neighbors, not Jamar Chase, to say that he's going to pass Brian Thomas Jr. as the wide receiver 1 on the team is very optimistic. In 17 games last year, Thomas had 87 catches, 1,282 yards, 10 touchdowns, 133 targets, 5.1 catches, and 75.4 yards a game. He was an alpha wide receiver 1 in a bad offense with bad quarterback play and bad coaching. I mean, this is an alpha. The odds that Hunter is better than a proven NFL alpha who had first-round draft capital himself, who was elite as a rookie, are low. This is not Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, where T. Higgins was good as a rookie, but nothing special. And then Chase came in as the number 5 overall pick. If there is any, and I mean any, discount on Brian Thomas Jr., I am taking it. I am all in. He is still a top 5 Dynasty wide receiver for me. I have not moved. And that's probably my biggest action from the entire draft is actually Brian Thomas Jr. as a buy. Now, of course, I think the biggest NFL story, even if it's not that relevant for rookie drafts now, is that Shedeur Sanders slid down the draft board. There were some people, these were very dumb people. They had Shedeur Sanders as quarterback 1 over Cam Ward. That was always a ridiculous take. I was never there. To me, there were 2 legitimate takes. You either had Sanders QB2 or you had him QB2A with Jackson Dart as QB2B. Those were the 2 legitimate takes. Because Sanders is a good prospect. He is. Last year, 74% completion. That's very strong. 4,134 yards, 37 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 8.7 yards per attempt, and 318 passing yards a game. To say that he was a bad quarterback, frankly, is bullshit. He was a good quarterback prospect. Not super inspiring, not super exciting, but good. I'll be honest with you. If his name was Shedeur Smith or Shedeur whatever, just not Shedeur Sanders, not Deion Sanders' son, he would have been a late first or second round pick. I believe that. He had accuracy as a thrower better than any other quarterback in this class. He lacked any real upside or excitement. I often said that Shedeur Sanders' ceiling would be Jared Goff's career. Jared Goff has been a good quarterback. Are you going to ever win a Super Bowl with Jared Goff? Probably not. So I get him falling to the late first or early second. I understand that. Him being a 5th round pick, I don't get that. I disagree. He fell to the 5th round, 144th overall pick to the Browns. The Browns had already selected Dillon Gabriel by this time. Dillon Gabriel is a terrible, cute quarterback prospect. Shouldn't have been drafted for me. I didn't have a draftable grade on Dillon Gabriel. And now they have Gabriel, Sanders, Joe Flacco, and Kenny Pickett. The early odds favor Kenny Pickett to start week 1. I'm not getting into that, but it's a mess, whatever the Browns are doing. Now, for me, I'm just going to avoid Shedeur Sanders in Superflex rookie drafts. I'm sure based on name value and the Browns quarterback depth chart, remember in a rookie draft, it just takes one person to draft him to push the ADP up. He's going to go in the earlier mid-third in most Superflex rookie drafts. People are so desperate for quarterbacks. The hit rate on day 3 quarterbacks is near non-existent. There's so few that you can remember the big 3. Tom Brady, Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy. And it's like 25 years of time. It's just so insanely rare. I believe no 5th-round quarterback has ever been anything. Of course, it's because somewhere in the 6th or whatever, but the odds are so slim. I'll pass on Sanders compared to the other players available in that range just because the odds are so small. And, the other players will have a higher range of outcomes. But, if he were available in the early 4th, maybe I'd take him. But he's going to go too high, so I'll pass on him in Superflex rookie drafts. But I disagree with the NFL's evaluation of him. I will say that. Now, speaking of a player where the NFL and my evaluation agreed, they did align, Tetairoa McMillan. He answered all doubts. In the pre-draft process, mysterious doubts started to come in. I don't know where they came from. They were saying a video from like 3 years ago that he wasn't excited to watch film or whatever. These were very odd doubts because he was a very strong prospect. In 12 games, he had 84 catches, 1,319 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 109.9 yards a game. He also had 107.9 yards a game in 2023. He was an early declare. This is an extremely strong prospect, an alpha-type wide receiver. Perfectly reasonable for him to be the wide receiver 1 in any given class. The Panthers selected him with the 8th overall pick. So he went higher than Rome Odunze last year. And most wide receivers who get top 10 draft capital end up succeeding. The last total bust is John Ross in 2017. Of course, that year also had Corey Davis, who was disappointing, and Mike Williams, who I would also say is overall disappointing, but had a fine career. But total disaster, the last one is John Ross, which was 8 years ago. So, and McMillan's not even that blazing speed archetype. In a way, I almost see it, not that being slower is good, but if you're slower and you got drafted 8th overall anyway, you must be really good because we know the NFL values speed and he doesn't have that. So they must really see an alpha wide receiver in Tetairoa McMillan, which I think he is. For me, I would draft McMillan as the rookie wide receiver 1. Why would I do that? Okay, so McMillan, Travis Hunter, very close in terms of prospects, both deserving. I slightly prefer Hunter as a wide receiver prospect, but both got good draft capital. If Hunter were only a wide receiver, he'd be my wide receiver 1. But the little bit of risk that he just takes some more snaps off to play cornerback, that just makes me move McMillan that one little tick ahead of him. But I have Hunter right behind. The difference also, McMillan can earn a massive target share from day 1. And he has the college pedigree to show that he can do that. He did that in college. He produced at a high level in college early as an early declare. Those players tend to produce early and often in the NFL. So I'm very in on McMillan as a high value dynasty wide receiver right off the bat. If you like my YouTube content, you should sign up for the Patreon. I'm offering a 50% discount off your first month at all tiers using the code TylerYT. You can get my Dynasty and Rookie rankings, which are now up. They are up on the Patreon. All my rookie content, access to Discord, all my write-ups, direct message fantasy advice, and the ability to ask in advance questions for the YouTube videos. Tiers begin at just $5 a month, $250 with the discount. If you want to know more about the Patreon, check out my Why You Should Join the Patreon videos on the channel. I have had about at least 10 signups in the last couple of days. I am just telling you that if you want my advice with your rookie drafts, that will only be available on the Patreon. I'm already overwhelmed with the questions I'm getting on the Patreon, let alone anywhere else. So take advantage of this 50% discount. I promise you won't regret it. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more people on the Patreon. With that said, patreon.com/fantasy advice. You can click on the link in the top right corner. With that said, I'll move into my next topic. So my next takeaway is about the Bears offense. I think most people thought that the Bears would take a running back, and not many people thought the Bears would take a wide receiver. So they did surprise me. They took Colston Loveland 10th overall and Luther Burden 39th overall. So They added these two players to an offense that already had Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, and Cole Kmet. Now, on the Patreon, I did talk about them taking a tight end at 10. I thought that was a possibility. I did think it would be Tyler Warren, not Colston Loveland. I didn't expect them to take a wide receiver in the second round after taking kind of a receiving first tight end in Colston Loveland. It felt to me like the Bears were sniped by the Patriots for Trevion Henderson, one pick before their choice, and kind of panicked, took a different kind of offensive weapon in Luther Burden. That's what it feels like, even obviously we'll never be able to confirm that. So we've heard about the Bears and Ben Johnson running 12 personnel, which they do. They do that frequently, but then Burden doesn't really fit in to that plan. It almost feels as if DJ Moore is kind of one that they would consider trading at some point, but he just signed an extension. He's not going anywhere this offseason. Maybe next year, he could be traded, but I'm not counting on that. DJ Moore's not that old. So the whole situation is a little confusing. Now, where am I at with this? So for me, I would consider drafting Burden as a value. I think Burden is going to be undervalued. For wide receiver, talent and draft capital are more important than situation and opportunity because targets are mostly earned at wide receiver. Whereas at running back, opportunity is mostly given. At tight end, more given than earned, except for an elite few. And Burden has both talent and draft capital. So in 2023, he had, that was a interesting typo there. So like I was saying, in 2023, Burden had 86 catches, 1,212 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 93.2 yards a game. I think he would have been a first-round pick if he could have entered the 2024 NFL draft. We know he struggled in 2024. But for wide receiver, I love to see the early breakout and then turn that into an early declare. So for Burden, I think he'll be undervalued because the situation is bad. And we know that wide receivers where the situation is bad tend to be undervalued. Now, as for Colston Loveland, I worry about Colston Loveland a lot. So he's not a great blocker. He tries, he makes an effort, but he's not a plus in that area. For tight ends, it's different. Situation is very important, and it's hard in this situation. We saw this with Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, and Cole Kmet is infinitely better than Dawson Knox. All it takes is for Kmet to keep Loveland off the field for 30 or 40% of snaps. That's all it takes. And if that's what happens, Loveland can't be a top 5 tight end pretty much ever for that year. I'm not saying he can't do it in Dynasty, but it could be many years before we get there. The commitment to 12 personnel also that we saw, and this happened with the Bills too, they started using 12 personnel after drafting Dalton Kincaid. And then as Khalil Shakir broke out as a slot wide receiver, they moved away from that. And then suddenly Dalton Kincaid disappeared. So if Luther Burden is really successful, wide receivers tend to take precedence over tight ends. I just have some concerns about Loveland. I'm not saying not to draft him, but, before they drafted Luther Burden, I had Colston Loveland ahead of Tyler Warren. Now I have Tyler Warren ahead. And I think people are more afraid of the Colts situation. So overall, I'm not sure how much Colston Loveland I'm going to be drafting in leagues. He'll probably be a little bit too high for me. Now, my last one, Emeka Egbuka will be a rookie value. Now, Egbuka to me is a more extreme example of the situation that Luther Burden is in. Egbuka is a strong prospect, strong draft capital, but the situation is a little murky. The Buccaneers drafted Egbuka 19th overall. This was higher than people expected him to go. He went ahead of Matthew Golden and inside the top 20 picks. It's strong draft capital. For example, JSN, another strong prospect, was 20th overall. So he was ahead of JSN in terms of draft capital. Egbuka was also a strong college prospect. In 16 games, he had 81 catches, 1,011 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 63.2 yards a game. But he was consistently productive from 2022 to 2024. And what I love is that his best year was actually 2022. The problem was that, we had Marvin Harrison Jr. in this offense in 2023. And last year we had, Jeremiah Smith was there. So it just never really, he wasn't really able to be the wide receiver one. And now he's in another spot where he's competing for targets, which is fine. Not every pick you make has to be a top 5 dynasty wide receiver. And where Egbuka is going, he does not have to be a top 5 dynasty wide receiver to pay off his rookie value. So for me, I would draft Egbuka as a rookie value. I think people are going to see the situation. And I am telling you, you're going to see rookie drafts where people draft RJ Harvey or Caleb Johnson ahead of Emeka Egbuka. Caleb Johnson won in the 3rd round. I get it. The Steelers running back situation is great. RJ Harvey is 24 years old. He's not a great prospect. He's not my favorite. 24 years old. He went in the late 2nd round. I'm telling you that the range of outcomes for Dynasty for Emeka Egbuka going as a 1st-round wide receiver in the top 20 is a lot better than those players. It's not a little better. It's a lot better. So I'm not going to be fading Emeka Egbuka for those running backs. I'm not going to be doing that. I'm going to be drafting him in Superflex ahead of Jackson Dart, who the range of outcomes for quarterbacks in that range is pretty bad. So, yeah. Egbuka is going to be a rookie value for me. He's a good prospect, good draft capital. I'm not going to fade him because, Chris Godwin, who's 29 coming off an injury, and Mike Evans, who's 32 going into the season, are there. That's not going to make me fade Emeka Egbuka. I just don't play that way. And it would be smart if you didn't play that way either. So I got a few Patreon questions and then we'll close out the show. So this one comes up every rookie season because I always get this question. Why is it wrong to fade a player because you already have another starting fantasy option on your roster, not drafting Travis Hunter because you already have BTA? It's because it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Like, the value of that player doesn't change because of the other players on your team, right? Like, if another person was trading for that player, then they would be worth whatever they're worth in the market, right? Because they don't have the player. So it is totally irrelevant. Having one player or not having one player does not change the value of that other player on your team ever. Is completely irrelevant. It has always been irrelevant. The only time it's ever relevant is if you're in a best ball format, then, stacking can help you. But if you're in just regular leagues, it's completely irrelevant. It doesn't matter one way or another. And there's no reason to do it. Thoughts on Trevion Henderson long-term? He's a good prospect. I certainly liked him in the pre-draft process. The New England landing spot is fine. I don't have an issue with it. Playing with Drake May is good. It's not an instant workhorse spot because I would assume Ramondre Stevenson's still going to mix in. But long-term, I'm totally fine with him. He didn't really move much in my ranks. He's kind of right about where I thought he would be. Did I have him as a top? I have him Dynasty running back 11. So pretty high. 11 overall as a rookie. So before he's even played. So that's pretty good. That means he's a Dynasty RB1 for me. So yeah, I would say I like him. Who are a few of the top running backs that didn't get drafted? So this year, there were no shocking omissions like Sean Tucker a couple years ago. The 3 running backs that I had down on my pre-draft sheet who did not get drafted were Raheem Sanders, Marcus Yarns, who I always had no interest in. People were talking about him. I have no idea why. And Donovan Edwards, who is just a name people have heard of, who was on my sheet in case he got drafted. I have no interest in any of these players. UDFA hit rates are slim to none, but those are the 3 that I was even thinking about: Raheem Sanders, Marcus Yarns, and Donovan Edwards, who did not get drafted. I think the big snub overall for not getting drafted was Xavier Restrepo. That I think was a shock to me. I just assumed Xavier Restrepo would be drafted, so I was actually very stunned that he was not. Now, if you like the video, make sure to support the channel by subscribing, and don't forget to hit that notifications bell so you can be notified about all my exciting content as it drops. Of course, if you want my best fantasy football advice and advice during rookie drafts, it's available on the Patreon. Dynasty content year-round, 50% discount at all tiers using code TylerYT. Click on the link in the top right corner, and also you can see all of that in the first comment below. Every sign-up helps support my independent content. But once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.